Good evening, church. My name's Alex Marlowe, and I fight the establishment media for a living. And I want to talk to you about the spiritual war we're in and where the media's role in that is and the role you all play. But the first thing I want to note is what Jason said earlier about the importance of writing and the written word. This means a lot to me. I do think I was put on this earth to talk, speak into a microphone, and to edit a website and edit headlines. But the thing that I sometimes feel the most satisfied when I'm done doing is writing. And it's something you can do personally, and it's something that I luckily enough get to do in book form. I've written 3 books, and my first book was on the establishment media. It's called Breaking the News, and it's my takedown, my deep dive research into it. So this is my area of expertise. But I want to talk about the media starting with my personal narrative. First of all, I come from a state out west, and so I'm very happy to be here. I'll let you guess the state. Let me give you some attributes we're known for. Crime, illegal immigration, beaches, we got some beaches, and a lot of lizards. Can anyone guess? It was California, okay. So I grew up West Los Angeles, and I went to prep school in Beverly Hills. A lot of lefties there, a lot of Hollywood types. I started to learn why they were beating us with their terrible ideas. It was presentation. It was the way they were able to take their terrible concepts and to get them into the American bloodstream, into our culture. They were doing it through their messaging, the way they were able to message. And so then I went to UC Berkeley. I went to Berkeley for college, got all the way through. This is the home of the free speech movement, people. You guys know that. How Orwellian is that, by the way? And this is where I started to understand not just the degeneracy of the left that Jason was talking about, which is a very good call, by the way. Very degenerate area of the Bay Area. But the Orwellian nature that the people who claim to stand for one thing, watch them closely because they might be standing for the exact opposite. When I was hosting events on campus 20 years ago, they were shouting us down. They were smashing windows. They were trying to jack up security fees so we couldn't bring speakers to campus. They were trying to come up with every excuse so that we couldn't elevate the voices that audience needed to hear the most. That was my introduction to the left, and it was the most important thing I studied while I was there. Because I went to Berkeley and because I had this background, I got in touch with Larry Elder. I worked for him for a while, and I used that line on my resume to start with a man named Andrew Breitbart. How many of you are familiar with Andrew? Andrew wasn't a new media pioneer. He was the new media pioneer. And he built an empire, and I was lucky enough to be a part of it as the first employee. He understood viral media before we were even calling it that. And he was behaving as a happy warrior. The 2 most important attributes you could have, he made that his calling card. And I'll tell you, it was a wild ride. It has been, I'm still there. It's been wild. We were canceled before it was cool. The attacks were constant. Falsely called racist, falsely called anti-Semites, even though the website's owned by Jews, the whole concept for it, we came up for in Israel. We were called fake news. You guys remember fake news? You know where that term came from? It was Hillary Clinton trying to cancel Breitbart. That's where it came from. Because our reporting, particularly with our colleague Peter Schweitzer, exposed that she was the one who was way too close with Russia. And that bothered her. Because she, as Secretary of State, had okayed the sale of 20% of America's uranium reserves to Russia. She's the one who got Russian oligarchs loading up the Clinton Foundation with that Russian money. Bill Clinton was the man who got $500,000 for a 45-minute speech in Moscow. That's why she's calling us fake news. It's not because we're wrong, it's because we're effective. And in one sentence, Donald Trump took that word back when he pointed, I think it was Jim Acosta from CNN, and he said, "You are fake news." And just like that, it was ours. It was our term. We love to do that. And so this is our legacy. This is our birthright in the media space. And we were boycotted simply for reporting the truth. The stories not just of today, but the stories of tomorrow. We were first to note that immigration, illegal immigration specifically, was destroying our country. We were first to identify the reality of Brexit in the UK. We were the first to note the threat of China and big tech, what that poses on this country. And perhaps the one we're best known for, we were the first to take a guy named Donald J. Trump seriously as a potential presidential candidate in 2015. So we were able to launch the careers of whoever is your favorite media personality. There's a good chance they came through my shop first. Steve Bannon, Ben Shapiro, and of course, the man of the hour, the man of the year, maybe the man of the century, my dear friend Charlie Kirk, who got his start writing for me when he was a teenager. It was a simple story, but it's a beautiful one. He was just starting to get his feet wet in conservative politics activism, and he came to us with a story, and he said, I've got a story here. My school has biased textbooks. And so my colleague Joel Pollack, who fielded the tip from Charlie, he said, well, why don't you write it up? That's the spirit of Andrew Breitbart. And Charlie said, I love Andrew Breitbart. I want to do what Andrew would do. And so he wrote up this story, and it was lightning in a bottle. Overnight, Charlie was everywhere. He was on Fox News, he was on radio, and he got the bug. I think Turning Point maybe was just getting started, it was just a kernel at the time. And he used that to propel himself into the public sphere. And he kept going, And a few years later, when Charlie was sending me stories all the time, he was writing frequently, I tried to hire him. And he had grown Turning Point just big enough where he said, you know what, I think we got something here. I think I'm gonna see it through. I think he made the right call. I think he did. But what Charlie wanted to do, and what he did, is he lived the way Andrew would have wanted us to live. And Andrew was taken from us far too young as well. You live boldly, you live loudly, and you leave nothing on the field. And even though the risks are massive, if you're righteous, you can be effective in the media space. And now, for the most part, the conservative movement shares the values that we've been pioneering: strong borders, anti-globalism, anti-elitism, anti-corporatism, anti-CCP. We're deeply skeptical of the tech oligarchy. We love rugged individualism. And best of all, in my opinion, is of course, the fake news is the enemy of the people, okay? Believe me, okay? Whenever I say that, all the red lights go off, all the red lights. And I'll add one more to that, and that is so apropos this weekend, and I'm so grateful for the pastor for having me. It is that there is no America without God in it. So these are also popular viewpoints. They're not just populist, they're popular. And so when I set out to write my first book, it was breaking the news, and it was about the weaponization of the media against Donald Trump and his supporters and his movement. And it's not just that they're biased, it's that they're trying to destroy you. You probably saw the clip of me earlier saying they're hunting us. I'll come back to that. But they've always been trying to destroy us. They never were giving us a fair shot. We were the guinea pigs. We were the canaries in the coal mine. And our understanding of that let us know that we were in a culture war. And the only way to win a war is to fight back. They don't want to compromise with us. They want to convert us if they can. Thanks to folks like you, mostly they can't. Or they want to cancel you. That's their move. So the word weaponization is specific. They're targeting us. And these are corporations who want to control not just the media, but they're controlling our lives. And they have their own interests at heart. Now, I will say Bernie Sanders is right about one thing. There is an oligarchy that is increasingly running the country. But his version of it is made up. It's fairy dust. It's not real. I'll tell you, the real oligarchy is the conglomerates that are controlling ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN. That's the oligarchy. Those are the ones who have been silencing your voice, the Christian conservative voice. They're the ones who are not giving you guys a late night show or a news show, or there's no one who's enfranchising you in the establishment media space. And that space is partially controlled by our own government with the FCC. I'll come back to that in a moment. And it's only getting worse. The Silicon Valley tech titans are even worse than the establishment news media. Mark Zuckerberg, I like Zuckerberg 2.0. I like the medallion. I like the cool haircut. I do. It's effective. But he tried to buy the election for Joe Biden by donating $400 million to those drop boxes. You think we forget that? We're not going to forget that. Google is the most harsh, and it controls YouTube against conservative voices. How many of your favorite podcasters can't make money on Google? I'll tell you, you go try to look up a Breitbart story on Google, you're going to have a hard time. unless you use the word Breitbart in it, then you're not going to find any of our stories, even exclusive stories that are 100% factually accurate. You can't find it in Google. And that's acceptable. That's an oligarchy. That's how an oligarchy functions. And their goal is to protect the establishment. We got AI coming up. That's going to provide some opportunity because we can push back on their lies faster using AI, but it's going to be garbage in, garbage out. So if garbage goes into the AI algorithms, then you're just going to get garbage stuff coming out. So what do we do about it? That's the big question for the summit, right? Well, first of all, what we did at Breitbart is we built a powerhouse of new media voices. And what Charlie did was something incredibly special. It wasn't just activism. Charlie wasn't just an activist. Charlie Kirk was a journalist. He was a modern day journalist. I wouldn't say it to his face though, because he'd probably get mad at me. He'd probably say that's the worst insult I've ever heard. How dare you call me a journalist? But he was interviewing the most important people in the world. It was, I compete with him for podcast bookings. And it was like, yeah, well, he just did an interview with Charlie. I'm like, I get it, I understand. That's a big show. I do that show too. And then he would go out and he'd spread the message on places like Instagram, places like TikTok, places where conservatives don't even go. And he would go and he would take over those platforms because he wanted to get the word out. He wanted to be the megaphone. So I want to talk about Charlie a bit for a moment. Because his murder has caused me to appraise the media moment that we're in. And I'll share a positive thought with you and a negative thought with you, and I'll do the negative one first. And this is what you saw in the clip that they played at the very beginning of this portion of the night. They all have blood on their hands. The establishment media does. All of them. Erica Kirk gave one of the most brilliant speeches I ever heard in my life a week ago tonight. My favorite line in it is this one. The evildoers responsible for my husband's assassination have no idea what they have done. Because that maniac would not have pulled the trigger if he had not have been radicalized. And he would not have pulled the trigger if he didn't know that he was going to get celebrated in certain corners of the internet, that he was going to get defended, that his satanic vision, him trying to play God, that was somehow going to be excused by these oligarchs, these corporations that control so much of our media and our speech in this country. And as you expected, the media disgraced themselves, didn't they? I knew this was going to happen because when Andrew Breitbart died, they did the same thing. Here is something that Matt Iglesias, who is a mainstream writer, wrote about Andrew Breitbart when he died. The world outlook is slightly improved with Andrew Breitbart dead. It's a mainstream guy. That's as mainstream as it gets in terms of liberal news. It pains me to read these quotes. A guy named Matt Taibbi, who I think is one of us now. I think he's finally on the right. But he was writing for Rolling Stone at the time Andrew died, and he wrote a column titled, "This is Real." And forgive me, earmuffs if small children are around. The column was called "Death of a Douche." Andrew Breitbart has 4 small children, the grieving spouse. He was a friend to everyone. Liberals loved him who got to know him. And Rolling Stone magazine, and this journalist comes out and writes "Death of a Douche." That was the dialogue of the media. So do you think I was surprised when after we saw that brutal murder in that train car in North Carolina, that Van Jones on CNN comes out and says, oh, well, it's just hurt people hurting people. You don't know the hurt that this man feels while he's gouging a woman's jugular out of her neck. He was the hurt one. He's the victim here. Were any of you surprised by that? You know it's demonic. You all do. You know that's what it is. There's no other explanation for it. They've been dehumanizing us for decades. When they call us fascists and they call us Nazis, someone is going to get shot. And that's exactly what happened. Happened to my friend. But this has been happening. The list of violence from left to right, from secular against religious in this country, the list is so long I could spend the rest of my time reading it. But in 2025, Turning Point USA students were assaulted at UC Davis. In 2024, I was with Charlie at UC Davis where they smashed into the basketball gym, breaking windows simply because he was speaking to a group of people at UC Davis. the 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump, the assassination attempt on Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. And we got news on that today. Did you guys see that, what the news is? The would-be Brett Kavanaugh assassin is transitioning and is now insisting on using female pronouns. And you tell me Satan isn't here. You tell me. Convince me otherwise. The Summer of Rage, all those pro-life organizations that were vandalized in 2022, the Rand Paul attack, the Steve Scalise assassination, the Family Research Council terror. All of that happened and the media did nothing. They acted like it was normal. It's never been normal. So that's why when you see people like Matthew Dowd from MSNBC suggesting that Charlie Kirk had it coming, or maybe one of his supporters shot him, and the New York Times was quick to remind us that Charlie was a provocateur. Oh, did he provoke his own assassination? Is that the suggestion, New York Times? The Times also got busted saying Charlie made some sort of an anti-Semitic statement. Do you guys catch the correction? Charlie was quoting someone else to critique it. But they go live with the statement that Charlie, oh, we got him. He's made the anti-Semitic statement. ABC News' Matt Gutman said that the text messages between the assassin suspect and his trans furry boyfriend were touching and heartbreaking. CBS claimed that the motives were elusive days after we learned that the suspect had shot rounds with Trantifa symbolism etched into the bullets, or the casings. I know you got some gun people out there, I gotta be specific. I'm gonna get a lot of negative tweets just from that. Blue Sky had to issue a warning to chill out the people on that platform. You guys might not even be aware of this, but this is like a left-wing Twitter alternative, only for lefties. You don't have to issue a warning unless there's a lot of bad stuff going on the platform. People fomenting violence. So that brings me to where you knew I was gonna go. Jimmy Kimmel. You guys knew I was gonna get there. I'll read the quote, okay? I'm gonna read it, and then you guys tell me if this is a hard one. The MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them. He's saying he's MAGA. This is days after we learn he's a Trantifa freak. We're being told on ABC, which benefits from government spectrum. So I'm a radio guy, so I know the FCC, okay? You guys remember the Carlin bit? There's a bunch of words you can't say. I'm not allowed to say tits, okay? You can't say it on radio, okay? That's the worst I'll go. I won't do the others. It's family audience. But you can't say that unless you want a fine. And so Kimmel is out there inciting violence, obviously, trying to make this murder seem okay. And the FCC can't even rebuke him without the media acting as though it was Kimmel who was assassinated and not Charlie Kirk. Completely insane. So they dropped him, which is cool. Yeah. But I'll tell you, they didn't just drop him because of what he said. They dropped him because of his ratings. No one was watching that show. I looked at it before I came up to do the speech. His ratings had declined every year for the last 11 straight years without one exception. And they were down this year. He's now at 129,000 viewers in the key demographic, which is like 16 to 50-ish. That's where all the advertisers want to get their hooks in you. If we put up a video of a cat playing with a ball of yarn at that time, I can guarantee you they have to do this experiment. Sinclair, if you're out there, do this, put it up there. I bet you it gets more viewers than that. These are the people who celebrated the blacklisting of Tim Allen, of Roseanne, and, as Jason pointed out, Tucker Carlson. They celebrated when all this happened. All the while fomenting the clear, violent assassination culture in the dark corners of the internet. Never reporting on it, never investigating any of it. They needed to take Charlie Kirk's death seriously. This was an opportunity. And they didn't take it. So here's the good news part. This is where I'll close, the good news. It's twofold. First of all, the obvious one. The demons among us are revealing themselves. We're seeing exactly who they are. The internet is forever, and we're writing it down, we're screen capping it, we're documenting it, we're putting it in databases, so we will never forget who disgraced my friend. But the best news is more clear than ever, is that we don't care about these people anymore. We don't care about the establishment media. Their power is completely gone, and that is official. Charlie Kirk is a martyr, a Christian martyr, a martyr for Christ, and a martyr for America itself. And as part of his legacy, I'm not seeing anyone standing around helpless, whining, hopeless. I'm seeing people take action, legal action, non-violent action. People are turning to God and the Bible, church and community. CNN, NBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post, ABC, NPR, they have no sway over us anymore. And I want for you, because you guys are dialed in if you're here on a Friday night, which I'm really enjoying, by the way, so thank you. I want you to pay attention to the people who tell us to slow down. Hey, hold up. We got to unify with the people who want us dead or something. Take a deep breath. One guy got in my X comments and told me to eat a sandwich last week when I was... It was kind of funny. It was kind of funny. They don't have our best interests at heart. Our loss of Charlie was terrible, but our response has been beautiful. Charlie died a warrior. That's a noble death in his prime. While they would have rioted, we're holding vigils. His legacy is going to be everlasting, and we're already seeing it play out. I spoke to Charlie every day in small bits, and once a week on his popular radio show and podcast. And I really don't want to speak for him. But I knew him well enough that I feel like I can say this one thing. What he would want for us right now is for us to fight and for us to win. Peacefully, yet fearlessly, just as Jesus Christ did himself. Thank you.